All right, so much art history and never enough time to cover it all. So let's go run through the art museum. All right, our next artist is Gino Severini. I think this guy's cool because he wears a monocle. He looks awfully young to be wearing a monocle, right? Is it old people have monocles? Yeah, like Mr. Peanut, yes. This is what the artwork looks like in a museum. You get a sense of how large it is. And then here is a closer view of our artwork. And what do you think this is a painting of? It is a painting of movement. Where do you think this movement is coming from? That's a good response. Circus. I have not heard that one before. It does look like a circus. Yeah, that's right. It's a dance. Try to imagine going to prom and looking at the people on the dance floor and with a kaleidoscope. So that's kind of what we're talking about. It's a painting of the frenzied excitement of a Paris nightclub. And again, the futurists used the cubist technique of the fractured planes. So there's a couple of main dancers here. This one, you can see her, you can begin to see her face right here, but it's been fractured, just like what we've been looking at in modern art with cubism and futurism. They use this fracturing to divide up the space. And you can see that she has these blonde curls. And there's a sense of a dress down here, maybe a foot right here. And she's dancing with another woman. This other woman has brunette hair, and you can see the back of her dress here. The artist put actual sequins on the canvas. So then that kind of blurs the line between what is real and what is not, just like the cubist would put newspaper and wood texture actually on the artworks. And so let's compare with a cubist artwork. So what makes the futurists different than the cubists? Before I ask what's different, let's ask what's similar. What are they? Right, the shapes, the fracturing of the shapes, right? And what makes them different? I heard it. Yeah, the color. Look how brightly colored this is, and how the cubists absolutely did away with color. But what I want to talk about is we've been able to decipher the cubist paintings. Now, I don't think I've shown you this one before, but can you take a guess as to what is it a painting of? Yes, it's someone holding a what? So you can see, yes, right, an instrument, right? That's very typical of cubist artwork. It's somebody holding an instrument. Now, what would be the purpose of painting them like this with all the fractured space and the fractured shapes? Remember that the cubist artist is looking at their subject from different points of view and then mashing it all together. Do you remember me talking about that? All right, that's kind of the main interest of the cubist. That is not the main interest of the futurist. The futurist is taking all these moments in time of something that's moving and mashing it all together into one piece. So it's almost as if on the cubist painting, the artist is moving around the subject that's standing still. And in the futurist, the subject is moving around the artist. Do you see that big difference between the two? Now, there was a style of art, a style of cubism that used more color, and that's the Salon cubists. And they're much more in line with the futurists color wise. But still, they are looking at something that's still and moving around it rather than have something that's move around them. There's a couple of interesting little details in this painting. Up here, we have a naked lady riding a pair of scissors. Yeah, right, huh? Right. That doesn't belong, does it? Over here, we have a Northern African riding a camel. And then over here, we have the head of a black cat. So why would these images be in here? They don't belong, do they? They look totally out of place. And the best guess as to why these images are here is because it refers to different cabaret acts. Just like what Toulouse-Lautrec would advertise for the Moulin Rouge, might be this painting would be of another dance hall, and there would be different acts that happen. So maybe there was an act of a woman with a giant pair of scissors. I don't know. All right. Maybe there's some kind of French term for that or Italian term for that, that it's a pun on that. but that's what they think it is. Also, do you notice any words in this artwork? Yeah, valse. All right. So valse right here is Italian for or French for waltz, Waltz. So again, it's a reference to a dance hall. Now, Boccioni, who's another futurist, also did a painting of a dance hall, and look how different his is. We do have a lot of like realistic moments, like her face right here that is not fractured at all. But there's other parts of the painting that are fractured. So I think that's curious. Maybe when he's painting her, like he's doing a portrait of a woman, it's a commission, and she says, "Don't fracture my face." It could be that, or there's some other kind of reason that he does for not applying this fractured space to her portrait. But look at how much more colorful his is, and you can see these lights back here shining on in different parts. It almost looks like even a modern dance club. And then we can even compare it to Toulouse-Lautrec at the Moulin Rouge. And what I think is interesting about this one is that as advanced and avant-garde as Toulouse-Lautrec was in his painting, it's almost been blown out of the water by the radicalism of Futurism here. It's so very different. Whereas this, Toulouse-Lautrec they're just beginning to get away from traditional academic painting. But this one is like it threw like a bomb in the traditional academic painting. I want to talk about armored trains. With every war, especially in the 20th century, we have a new piece of cool technology. And with World War One had lots of new technology in the war, but one of those was an armored train. We had a vast expansion of trains during the Industrial Revolution, and this made trains a viable weapon for war. Armored trains were used as early as 1840 and also used in the Civil War. And armored trains were not very useful on the Western Front because of the stalemate, but they were very useful in the Eastern Front because there were huge distances and the front kept moving. So the Russians used armored trains for surprise attacks and carrying troops to the hot zones. From this armored train, or an armored train like this, we get a painting like this right here. Now, what view of the train do you think you're seeing? Yeah, we're looking at the top of the train. All right, so we're looking down at the train as the train goes along the track. And it has a turret on it, a turret cannon. You can see that in the green right here. And then the top is open, and you can see the soldiers shooting through the armor on one side. So it looks like their enemy is to our left. And as the train goes through this space, it is creating a lot of steam, and you can see that steam and smoke rolling back here that mixes with the gunpowder smoke and the flashes from the guns on the sides. And then you can see the foliage, the foliage and the greenery around in little bits right here. This is so different from other art about the war that's coming out at the same time. So both of these are painted at relatively the same year. They're 2 years apart. And on the right, we have a much more traditional view of the war. We have, a foreground, a middle ground, and a background up here. But with the train, because we're looking down on it, they flatten the space. But not only are we looking down on the train, but we're looking sideways at the figures. And so we're having that multiple viewpoint that's smashed together. Also, look at the color differences. Look how miserable the colors are on the right and how fun the colors are on the left. On the left, it almost is like we're looking at toys, like toy trains or toy soldiers. And the soldiers are faceless and anonymous. They're not individualized. They're not personal. We've seen this before with various artworks like Goya and Manet. And with the armored train, there's no looking back. We are destroying everything, destroying the past as you head into the future. This is a very pro-war painting. And here is a photograph of where this image likely comes from. And when I was in grad school, I wrote about this painting and I compared it to a Gothic church. So, and I know that Gothic church weren't originally planned with these colors, but look at the colors of that Gothic church plan, and you can see the similarity. And I talked about how the futurists almost saw technology as a religion. They were very religious about their excitement about new technology and religion. All right, our last artist to look at in Futurism is Giacomo Balla. And take a look at this artwork. All right, and you can see the title of this, Velocity of a Motorcycle. Do you see the motorcycle? Do you see the movement of the motorcycle? All right. Yeah, right. You can see this looks like the head of the motorcyclist as he zooms past. You can see the spinning of the wheels as they zoom past. These right here look like sound, like shock waves from the sound of the loud motorcycle as it zooms past. Yeah. Yes, right. But to me, this is a very typical, or this shows what the futurist artists were all about. However, this is not a typical painting for Giacomo Balla. This is more typical of his artwork. And so we are still in futurism. Where is the futurism in this artwork? So, yeah, what are we looking at? It does look like a portal, yeah. So we're looking at a street light. So here's the actual light part right here, and this will be the framework to hold it. What else is in the picture? Right, you see the moon up here. All right, so the futurists loved the future and they hated the past, and Balla is making art that reflected the future. What is so futuristic about this light? This was a new thing, right? Electricity was still new. And so in the early 20th century, Rome was replacing the gas lights with electric lights that they had around. And before gas lights, Rome was just a dark city at night. So Rome was becoming more industrialized and technological. And Rome was finally abandoning its ancient past and entering the modern age. So what is new is it's an electrified city, which was exciting for the futurists. They rejected the traditional subject matter here, and they embraced the modern device. Can you imagine a Baroque painting of a streetlight? Like, that would be unheard of. And so then also what is in here is the moon represents the past way of doing things. People used to rely on the moon to see at night. And then also, do you guys remember Marinetti? He's the guy that wrote about how wonderful racing cars were and how terrible Nike of Samothrace race was. So he wrote against the moon and its association with traditional romance and sentimentality. Marinetti condemned the past generations of poets and artists of romanticizing the moon, and he called for a more modern symbol, a race car or a train, to take its place. And here we have a painting that has the moon in it, which is a symbol of the past. And then if you look at the painting, what's brighter, the light or the moon? The light. I do want to point out like how he makes it look like the light is giving off energy, and he's repeating these little V shapes right here, and they get like they're much smaller closer to the center of the light, and they're much more yellow and white, and as they get farther away they slowly turn into blue and red and yellow V shapes that fly out. Earlier today, one of the other College Academy students said that this painting reminded her of the Last Supper and the way that the light emanated from Christ's head right here. All right, also, this is very similar to Seurat in the way that he put those V shapes on there to reflect that light. Before joining the Futurists, Balla had been working on pointillism. What are we looking at? It does look like an ocean, right? Somebody, third period, said it looked like water, right? You see, it does look like pasta. All right, so what is this a painting of? It is, right. It is painting a movement. What is the source of that movement? It's a bird. All right, I'm so glad you asked where. All right, I will show you where the bird is. Do you see the birds now? All right, so it's the path of a bird, and this is very much like a chronophotograph where you see the same image repeated over and over to show that movement. So once you see the bird, now you can see it all over. I see some up here, I see some like going across here, and this shape repeats itself over. It's like the bird is flying back and forth. All right, and probably the cutest painting of the day is the dynamism of a dog on a leash. And this is another one of those images that if you Google futurism, this will be one of the first images that pops up. All right, for those of you dog lovers, you can identify the breed of dog, right? Yeah, Dachshund, which are commonly called wiener dogs, yes. The wiener dog is not the official term of this breed. Yeah. All right. So, hey, take a look at those legs on that dog. Does that not look like chronophotography to you? Right. And you can see that tail wagging and you can see the leash going back and forth. This painting is definitely influenced by photography. The other thing that makes this like look like photography is that it is tightly cropped. I can imagine that the camera would have been maybe on a car that's riding next to the woman and taking a picture of the dog because the ground looks so streaky, right? It's the movement of the ground, but we see that this dog has these little legs that are furiously trying to keep up with the woman. So one art historian wrote, even without these multiplication and motion effects, he would still be doing something that's novel. There aren't many previous paintings that present us with such an abrupt close-up, which is a reference to photography. And so once again, I really want to stress, ever since last unit, how important photography is for art and how it changes art and influences art. In the past, we would never have an image like this before. We would have, there's certainly been dogs in art that we've seen before, and dogs are quite commonly associated with fidelity and faithfulness. Never will we have the dog as the subject and the person as the sidekick. Bala takes the kind of subject that of Impressionism had specialized in, but he picks up only one single detail and almost randomly clips it or crops it. He makes it the focus of the whole picture. A trivial subject is made into the main event. All right, moving on. Now, this is a different artist, and I put him in here, and he's not really supposed to be here. Marcel Duchamp, we'll talk about him a little bit more after World War One, but he's one of those artists that straddles different art movements. This painting is almost always categorized as Cubism. So look at this painting. What makes it look like Cubism? Because it certainly does look like Cubism. The muted colors, right? It has the same colors as Cubism. What else makes it look like Cubism? Yes, you can see the subject more than you can with Futurism. The subject is fractured, like you would see in a Cubist work of art. However, this painting is about more than just the subject. It's about the descent on the staircase. I say that this artwork is a futurist work of art, whereas it's mostly categorized as Cubism because it's the movement of the person walking down the stairs. If this were made with a printer and a computer, a 3D printer, this is what we'd be looking at for a nude descending a staircase. Or we can see it in a chronophotograph of a nude walking down the stairs. Now, when you look at these two together, can you now see the nude walking down the stairs in the painting? Yes. All right. So it's kind of easy to see the stairs down here. And you can even see there's some more stairs up here, maybe some more stairs up here. It's a whole labyrinth of stairs. Then we can see the woman over here. And by the way, I do say it's a woman, but it never says it in the title. But why do I think it's a woman? Yes, most nudes are women. Ever since the Greek and Roman eras, almost all nudes have been women. All right. And so I can see her head right here. This would be her torso, probably her chest, her hips. And we have one leg that's straight and the other leg that is bent. And even you can see these little, it's almost like she has these cartoonish little legs flashing back and forth, right? I have one little bit of fun here for you. All right, this is 20 seconds long. There's a movie called Top Secret. And in this scene right here, he's traveling to Germany on the train. And he's listening to a tape recording that's teaching him how to speak German. All right, so when you watch the clip, that's what the voice is. He is sitting in the train, looking out the window, and he's painting a picture. All right, so I want us to watch. It's 20 seconds long, eyes up on the screen.
The table Eine Blitz is at der Flachbetuch. The pen is on the.
All right, so it's a gag, right? So it makes it look like he's painting something specific out there, but he's just painting everything that's going by. That's what he sees. But how does this relate to futurism? He's painting the movement of the trees, all right? So